in the chat.
W's in the chat.
Oh my gosh. That one just aged me, but we're getting better. Shoot, good win. Win's a win.
A dub is a dub, so keep on rolling.
Sophie Cunningham just used the worst language possible to criticize her own teammates. The true narrative is what transpired with the ball movement during the Indiana Fever's 5th consecutive victory. Everyone else was frigid, but Cunningham was the one with the money. She is also not keeping quiet about it.
Jump ball, she gets up.
Yes.
Oh yeah, she uses the off arm to push off on Cunningham.
Do you believe Sophie Cunningham had good reason to be upset with her teammates for failing to pass the ball to her when she was in the zone? A few months ago, it appeared impossible for the Indiana Fever to do what they had just done, winning 5 in a row and moving up the rankings more quickly than anyone anticipated. Behind the festivities and the historic winning run, however, there is some major conflict developing around shot selection and ball movement, with Sophie Cunningham voicing her opinions in ways that will unnerve certain teammates. Let's examine the specifics of what transpired in Seattle and the reasons Sophie Cunningham is rightfully incensed at her teammates. The Storm 78-74 was defeated by the Fever in what ought to have been a blowout, but due to some dreadfully poor decision-making that almost cost them the game, they ended up being a nail-biter instead.
Been a perfect fit at the stretch 4. Cunningham connects on a 3.
This is when things start to get interesting. Sophie Cunningham went 4 of 5 from beyond the arc, completely asleep from three-point range. 4 stars. From three-point range, that is 80%. The team as a whole, however, went 0 of 17 from 3. 0 out of 17. Give it a moment to settle in. The team as a whole shoots 0% from 3, while one player shoots 80%. Additionally, they continue to take more shots than the guy who is actually making them, for whatever reason.
Jump ball, she gets up.
Yes.
Oh yeah, she uses the off arm to push off on Cunningham.
Those who were closely observing said that the most annoying aspect was when they stopped sending the ball to Sophie in the third quarter. They choose to stop giving her the ball even though she is shooting 80% from 3. That is not basketball intelligence. That is a lack of knowledge about basketball. You run every play through someone who is that good from three-point range until they start to miss. Basketball 101 is that. However, the absence of passing isn't the only villain in this tale. Instead, it's the individual who was administering all of those shots. One of the worst shooting performances you'll ever witness from a professional basketball player was that of Kelsey Mitchell. She shot 0 of 8 from three-point range and 3 of 16 from the field, 0 for 8 from 3 in 29 minutes of play. Sophie, meantime, is sitting there at 4 minutes before 3, perhaps wondering why she isn't getting the ball.
About the consistency.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of ups and downs in the WNBA this season. To take care of business in a winning streak like this, what does that sort of say about how this team's come together?
Yeah, you know, Seattle's a great team, a great team, and it's hard to play here. And so we knew that. We knew that they just came off kind of a bad loss against LA. And so they were hungry for a win. But for us, it's not about other teams. It's about our standard. It's about stacking the days. And I think that where our mental's at as a team and as individuals, we're in a really good spot. And, you know, it's not going to be easy moving forward. But I think today we stayed true to the scout. We trusted the offense. Kelsey has been having a hell of a season. She was a little bit off, but she facilitated for us offensively down the stretch, and it just shows that everyone has something to give, even if your scoring's not going to be there. But I don't know, I'm just proud of our team, and I'm proud that we stacked today.
This game's coaching choices were completely perplexing. How is it possible to watch Kelsey Mitchell play 29 minutes despite going 0 for 8 from 3? How can you not run every play through Sophie Cunningham when she shoots 80% from 3? With some of the most dubious rotations and game management you'll ever witness, Stephanie White nearly led this squad to victory. This is what aggravates me even more. There was no trash time shooting going on here. Every possession was crucial in this close contest. The fourth quarter saw a manageable gain for the Fever. Additionally, they were allowing players to make poor threes rather than working the clock and getting good shots early in the shot clock. That isn't how basketball is won. That is basketball selfishness.
Survived that, I think it was an 11-0 run by Seattle in the final 5 minutes. Just kind of how gutsy was that to pull that out?
And we were very gutsy, you know. Every winning will be pretty. So I'm happy that we kept our composure even though Seattle went on an 11-0 run. We've been through situations like that, but at the end of the day we just stayed together and we talked about it and we moved on to the next play.
I also think it shows the growth that we've had as a team, because early in the season we were just so inconsistent, and if teams were to do that, we would normally lose those games, but it just shows that we're getting closer, we're trusting each other, and I think that's the biggest part, is trusting and knowing that we can win those games even.
It's also important to consider the situation's mental component. If your teammates trusted you with the basketball, you could help put the game away. Picture yourself as Sophie Cunningham, standing wide open in the corner and watching them block shot after shot. For any competitive athlete, the psychological effects of being disregarded when competing at a high level must be devastating. It's critical to comprehend the disaster's timing. Sophie made her threes early in the game and quickly established herself as the preferred deep option. However, as the game went on, the ball ceased to locate her. Instead of finding the open shooter who was money all night, players were making contested threes with 15 seconds remaining in the shot clock. The shot choice made by Kelsey Mitchell was especially terrible. You can't keep taking threes if you're shooting 0 for 8 from 3. Instead of trying to shoot your way out of a slump when you're 3 of 16 on the field, you should start helping your teammates. Mitchell continued to shoot like she was Steph Curry in her prime, though, rather than realizing she was having a bad night and changing her style accordingly. It was astounding how little basketball IQ was on exhibit. Any skilled basketball group would have recognized Sophie as the hot hand and modified their attack appropriately. However, they continued to play the same plays for players who obviously lacked it that evening. That's poor teammate behavior in addition to poor coaching. This issue is made even more challenging by the veteran leadership element. One of the more seasoned players on this team, Sophie Cunningham, has had enough experience to know what winning basketball is all about. It sets a risky precedent that might destroy team chemistry when older players are passed over in favor of younger players who are having terrible evenings for shooting. Sophie Cunningham's reaction to this situation is quite understandable. She is a seasoned athlete who has played in the league long enough to see when she is being taken advantage of. She came to Indiana to compete for titles and win games, not to stand in the corner and watch teammates miss shots. Given that they nearly lost the game as a result, the frustration must be even greater. Seattle almost stole a victory that should have been put away much sooner after going on an 11-run surge in the fourth quarter. It would have been one of the most frustrating defeats of the season if the Fever had fallen due to bad shot selection and ball movement. Sophie has been the team's most reliable three-point shooter the whole season, which only makes her predicament more frustrating. She is not a role player who was fortunate to play one game. She deserves to get the ball when she's hot because she is a skilled shooter. Her teammates' inability to identify this and adapt accordingly demonstrates a severe lack of basketball awareness. It's almost hilarious how overwhelming the statistical proof is. The basketball decision ought to be made automatically when one player shoots 80% from 3 and the other players shoot 0%. The team's basketball philosophy and decision-making process have several major problems, as evidenced by the fact that it wasn't automatic. The coaching staff deserves massive condemnation for permitting this to occur. The choice to rotate should be clear when one player is shooting 80% from 3 and another is shooting 0%. However, they continued to use the same lineups in the hopes that things would miraculously go better rather than bringing Mitchell in and riding the hot hand. If this isn't handled correctly, it could have a big effect on team dynamics. Sophie Cunningham isn't the kind of basketball player who meekly accepts bad choices. She wants her teammates to produce successful plays and is outspoken and competitive. She is going to inform them when they fail to do so. A more significant issue with the Fever's attacking scheme is also brought to light by this episode. They don't appear to have a clear hierarchy when it comes to shot selection and ball distribution. Good teams have systems in place that automatically get the ball to the hot shooter. The Fever seem to be operating on individual decision-making rather than collective basketball intelligence. This is especially concerning because it occurred during their winning streak. Championship teams don't win games despite poor decision-making. They win because they consistently make the right decisions. Sophie's frustration is exacerbated by the fact that she has been playing at an exceptionally high level throughout the season and has been one of their most trustworthy players. Both on the defensive and attacking ends. She is having a career night from three-point range, therefore it is unfair to her and the team's chances of winning to ignore her. These shot attempts were especially poorly timed. With plenty of time remaining on the shot clock, the Fever were allowing players to make fast threes late in the game, when they ought to have been working the clock and taking high-percentage shots. That is self-centered basketball that jeopardizes individual statistics in favor of winning. When you take into account the circumstances, Kelsey Mitchell's performance becomes even more unacceptable. This was no pointless game from the regular season. They needed to win this game to secure a postseason spot. Every item was important. And while a teammate was shooting lights out, she was wasting possessions with poor shot selection. It is impossible to overstate the importance of ball movement in contemporary basketball. To find the best shot, the league's top teams move the ball swiftly and effectively. That idea was completely at odds with what transpired in Seattle. Players were disregarding open teammates who were shooting at a high level, keeping the ball, and taking challenged shots. The team's general basketball maturity is evident in the lack of communication and adjustment during the game. When someone has the hot hand, good teams know it and adjust accordingly. The fact that the Fever persisted using the same strategy in spite of clear indications that it wasn't effective indicates they still need to grow. Sophie Cunningham has demonstrated exceptional professionalism throughout this circumstance. She played hard on defense and made the appropriate plays when she did get the chance, even if she was annoyed by the lack of ball movement. That characterizes a seasoned player who prioritizes team performance over individual annoyance. This game's wider ramifications extend beyond a single bad shooting performance. The Fever must show improved basketball intelligence and decision-making if they hope to be considered as legitimate postseason candidates. Poor shot selection and ball movement don't cause championship teams to nearly lose games. Sophie's shooting and the rest of the team's shooting differ so drastically that it ought to have been hard to overlook. When the squad as a whole makes 0 threes while one individual makes 80%, the basketball choice is clear-cut. It is troubling that not everyone on the court could see it. This circumstance also calls into question the team's accountability and leadership. Who is in charge of determining when changes are necessary? Who is meant to convey that the hot shooter needs to find the ball? These are fundamental basketball ideas that winning teams instinctively implement. They still won the game, which is beneficial since it allows them to deal with these problems without having to worry about losing. But if they don't take this as a lesson, experience, and make the required changes, they will lose games to more competitive ones. It will be intriguing to observe Sophie Cunningham's future response to this circumstance. She's not the kind of player who keeps quiet about bad basketball decisions. She should become more outspoken about demanding the ball when she's shooting well if this starts to happen. The coaching staff must accept accountability for failing to make the necessary changes throughout the match. The rotation choices need to be self-evident when there is unmistakable data proof that one player is hot and others are cool. Their failure to implement these changes demonstrates a worrisome lack of in-game control. This game ought to act as a warning to everyone. Arrangement. Winning 5 games in a row is fantastic, but if they are unable to make simple basketball decisions about shot selection and ball movement, they will not be able to win more games. As the competition increases in difficulty, the margin for error decreases. In the end, Sophie Cunningham has every reason to be angry about the way this game turned out. She performed flawlessly, made all of her shots, played solid defense, and was prepared to lead the team offensively. Her coaches and teammates nearly lost a vital win because they were unable to recognize what was going on. At the professional level, that is unacceptable, and adjustments must be taken to make sure it doesn't occur again. A significant issue with the Fever's basketball IQ was just revealed by Sophie Cunningham. Decisions about how to move the ball should be made automatically when someone hits 80% from 3 while everyone else shoots 0 for 17. Her annoyance is very understandable, and the squad has to take note of this before it costs them important games. What do you think? Please like and subscribe.